Dantix here. So Anthem, the looter shooter exosuit fantasy produced by BioWare is at our doorstep, and I haven't been so torn on what class to pick since, well, I don't even remember honestly. So this video will run through each type of Javelin, the exosuits that function as a class, and what kind of gamer they would resonate with. This is because in the demo you're given the Ranger Javelin to start with and have to choose which other to experience. In the full game you have to choose one of the 4 right after you finish the tutorial. You unlock the next at 8, then level 16, then finally level 24, and keep in mind that ultimately you'll be able to play all 4, but hopefully at the end of the video you'll have a better idea of what you'll choose to be your first and even your main. If you want to see a much more in-depth rundown of abilities and skills, check out my abilities video in the description below, and I highly recommend it as I'll be only really mentioning abilities in this video. And at the end of the video, I'll clear up some confusion around the Alliance system. Also below is a link to enter the competition to win a digital copy of Anthem on the platform of your choice, and also the timestamps to jump to a specific Javelin you want to hear about in this video. So each Javelin is drastically different from the last. There are 4 to choose from: the Ranger, the Colossus, the Storm, and the Interceptor. The differences between the 4 break down into the frame's physical appearance, their maneuverability, their survivability, their abilities, their weapons, their ultimate, their combos, and their role. Let's start with the Ranger. Looks-wise, the Ranger resembles the traditional Iron Man fantasy. It's a medium armored suit. It's not overly bulky, but it's not lightly armored. If you're planning on pasting N7 vinyls onto a suit, this will look most accurate to the Mass Effect source material. In terms of maneuverability, the Ranger sits in the middle of the pack. It's not as nimble as the Interceptor, but not as bulky as the Colossus. It can dodge attacks, barrel roll, and double jump. It has a high amount of health and shields. In terms of abilities, the Ranger has a good mix that prime the target and a good mix that detonate. It has range with its missiles and explosive power with its grenades. In fact, the Ranger's ability theme is that it has a first slot of grenades, Frag, Inferno, Frost, Seeker, and Sticky, and the second slot are all abilities fired from the arm: Homing Missile, Energy Pulse, Spark Beam, Venom Darts, and Blast Missile. Its support slot has Bulwark Point, which makes a spherical field to deflect projectiles, or Muster Point, which creates a field that increases weapon damage. Its melee attack is unique in that it primes the enemy with electricity. The other Javelin's melee all detonate. An interesting, unique note to add to this suit that lets it forego priming abilities completely if it needs to. It also meets all damage types in its ability kit: fire, electric, frost, acid, blast, and kinetic. I glossed over this, but certain abilities will prime an enemy to be comboed when used against them. An example of this is Frost Grenade. It has a chance of freezing the target, which means that target is now primed. If you were to use a detonate ability, like Blast Missile, you or whoever uses the ability will get a combo on that target. Each Javelin has a different effect when they combo. The Ranger simply does bonus damage to the target it got a combo on. That means the Ranger is particularly good against single, strong enemies. The Ranger can also equip every weapon type except heavy weapons. That includes pistols, SMGs, shotguns, rifles, and snipers. The Ranger's ultimate, the multi-target missile battery, is adaptable, which really does summarize the Ranger as a whole. When activated, the Ranger fully heals and becomes damage immune. It then locks onto targets you pass over with your crosshairs. After a short time, or when you activate it again, the Ranger will shoot a set payload of missiles at those targets. If you've selected fewer targets, those targets will have to welcome more missiles. If it's just one target, hopefully it prepared for a party. This ultimate either makes short work of a lot of quick, weak enemies, or piles a lot of damage into a single, high priority target. So why would you pick the Ranger? There's nothing overly flashy in the Ranger's arsenal. If you want explosions, you'll probably gravitate towards the Colossus. If you want lightning, fire, and ice, you'd go for the Storm. If you want a ninja cut 'em up experience, you'd go for the Interceptor. So why? Well, you pick the Ranger if you want a Javelin that has the ability to supplement every role within a party and provide strong single target damage. What do I mean? Well, having a Ranger means most likely you'll have another way to prime your enemies, another way to detonate, another body to help keep the attention of hard-hitting enemies, and another ultimate to help in the specific situation you need when you need it. What most people think is that the Ranger will be a jack of all trades and that's it. This isn't the case, because if you build for damage, I foresee the Ranger having some of the best single target damage in the game between its high damage combos, damage increasing support field, and powerful single target abilities, making the Ranger a must have for boss killing. Plus, you get to feel the most like Iron Man. The next Javelin is the Colossus. Looks wise, the Colossus is a Ranger who looks like it had a ton of scrap metal strapped to its frame. It's big, it's bulky, and it resembles the Hulkbuster. If you want to be the biggest on the squad, the Colossus is for you. The Colossus has the most health out of any Javelin by far, and lacks an energy shield. This means it doesn't have the damage mitigation that regenerates when you're out of combat. Health can only be healed with health items that drop off enemies. The Colossus can also not dodge or roll, so it will struggle to move out of the way of attacks incoming from enemies that you even know are coming. However, it doesn't need to. Instead of dodge, it has a shield wall, a big hunk of metal that it can unfold to block damage from the front. And while it's out, you can also use it to melee enemies. The shield has its own health bar and takes a set amount of damage before it's destroyed, and once it is, there's a cooldown before you can use it further. This means that the Colossus is best at tanking massive amounts of damage, but over time will be worn down if made to take too much. The Colossus has a lot of abilities that detonate, well, a lot of abilities that explode in general. While it does have a few key priming abilities like Firewall Mortar, its strength lays in the ability to hit a wide amount of enemies with big AoE detonator effects. A Javelin like the Storm can set up a large group of prime targets for the Colossus to obliterate. The theme in the first slot is around firing from the shoulder: Explosive Mortar, Burst Mortar, Firewall Mortar, Lightning Coil, and Shock Coil. The second slot is about the arm cannon: Heavy Cannon, Flamethrower, Flak Cannon, Railgun, and Acid Spitter. The third slot is the support, and can either taunt, which draws the attention of enemies, or deflect a pulse, which raises the defense of your team. Its melee is simple but effective. The Colossus swings its thick arm upon its enemies, detonating combos, or if you have the shield out, smacks the shield around. The Colossus only has a few elemental damage attacks and completely zero ice-based ones. So don't expect the Colossus to get in there and start controlling the crowd with freezes. No, it controls with its fists and with explosions. It's not surprising then that it has the most blast-based damage type abilities. If a Colossus was to hit an already primed target with a detonator ability like Explosive Mortar, it would get a combo. The Colossus, when it combos, creates a large explosion around the combo target, doing damage in an area of effect. If multiple prime targets are hit, that's multiple explosions. You can see what I'm getting at here. The Colossus is all about chaining destruction. In terms of weapons, the Colossus can't equip the heavy pistols, so don't expect precise targeting, but it does have access to heavy weapons, which are unique to the Colossus. This includes autocannons and grenade launchers, and both unleash a lot of damage. The Colossus's ultimate is the Siege Cannon. The Colossus pulls out the biggest cannon it can, and then it expands to be even bigger, just like all your pants will. It fully heals and becomes invincible for the duration. It then has a set amount of time to fire. Each round blows up like a small nuclear device, and you can get off roughly 3 shots before the duration ends. It, like the Colossus, is great at clearing out a lot of enemies, or even just healing you if you can't find enough health drops. So why would you play the Colossus? If you want to be the thickest boy in town, if you want to be the person who blows up everything. Not saying you're overcompensating, but you got to want to be the biggest, have the biggest attacks and the biggest armor. The Colossus excels at clearing out trash and taking hits for the team between its massive health and its fold-out shield and its support abilities, though you don't need to be the tank. You're just as able to build for crowd control and going ham with powerful weapons. Next is the Storm. The Storm is lightly armored and looks sleek. It's the only Javelin with a cape, relax Edna, and has powerful seals that crackle with power on its right shoulder. The Storm isn't as slow as the Colossus, but isn't as maneuverable as the Interceptor. Instead of physically dodging, the Storm teleports a short distance. It means that it can completely avoid attacks for a brief window. This comes at a cost, as the Storm has the least health out of all the suits. This is a true glass cannon, almost completely relying on its shields. Shields which get a recharge rate boost as the Storm hovers. Thus, you're encouraged to fly up, hover over your enemies and rain down death, though while up high, you'll have a good vantage point but also have no cover, making it difficult to keep the Storm from taking lethal damage if not played correctly. However, in terms of abilities, the Storm has powerful ones. It has the most abilities that prime targets in the game, as well as a lot of ice effects that freeze and control targets. The Storm is the master of ice, fire and electric, but does not have access to acid, blast or kinetic damage types. All of the Storm's abilities have long range and most have multiple charges or short cooldowns. The Storm's first slot has abilities that revolve around elemental blasts: Lightning Strike, Ice Storm, Flame Burst, Rime Blast and Living Flame. The second slot has abilities that are more focused: Hoarfrost Shards, Fireball, Ball Lightning, Glacial Beam, and Arc Burst. The third slot has support abilities: the Wind Wall, which creates a wall that deflects incoming projectiles, and Nexus, which lowers the cooldown of abilities. The Storm's melee is a Fiery Strike. It has high knockback. It's the get off me button because the Storm doesn't really want to be in melee range. However, it does detonate, so if you get a hit off, you'll most likely be setting a combo as well. The Storm's combo effect is that it spreads the current primed effect that's on the target to nearby targets. So if the target is on fire, all those around it will catch on fire. You can imagine how this will make a banquet of juicy combos for those with detonators ready to be unleashed. The Storm can equip all weapon types except heavy. Yes, the Storm can equip the assault rifles, the shotguns and the snipers, to name a few. You aren't forced to go an ability focused build. The Storm's ultimate, Elemental Storm, fits the theme. After activating, the Storm fully heals and becomes damage immune. You then choose where to place your first attack, which will be ice based. A blast will hit, potentially freezing targets, and after a short amount of time, a comet will strike the iced area, detonating those primed. After you place the iced area, you can place another, but instead of ice, it'll be electric. Then another, but fire. So the three elements the Storm controls, it can place, and all targets hit by both the blast and the comet will most likely be comboed, spreading chaos. You can choose to pile all three effects on one big strong target or spread them out over a lot of targets. Either way, this is the only ultimate that primes targets. So why would you play the Storm? Because you want to be the guy that's either supporting the team or rain down destruction on your enemies. The Storm is frail, the frailest in the game, but also has the potential to be the most impactful damage or control wise. The other three Javelins would be happy to have you along as you spread effects that they can use to get combos, and you can decrease their cooldowns and let them spam their skills more often. Combined with your combo effects, you'll be freezing hordes of enemies in their tracks, or burning legions alive with damage over time, or electrocuting armies with dangerous static that sparks from their bodies. If you like playing the Spellcaster, if you like using abilities, the Storm is for you. Finally, let's talk about the Interceptor. Looks-wise, the Interceptor is edgy, sleek and lightly armored. It's the space rogue or ninja of the group. It looks like it can really move, and it can. Maneuverability is where the Interceptor shines. It's the nimblest of all the Javelin, able to triple jump, triple dash, as well as double barrel roll. If your shield's taken a hit, moving will recharge them faster, so you'll be able to dodge those big dangerous attacks. It's not as frail as the Storm, but it lives on the edge, as most Interceptor builds will look to get up close to the enemy, so maneuverability is key to staying alive. Guerrilla warfare. The Interceptor needs to utilize those dodges, jumps and rolls in order to stay alive or get in fast and do damage. The Interceptor's abilities complement that playstyle, with glaives, melee strikes and acid bombs. The Interceptor has the highest amount of kinetic-based damage type attacks and very few of the others. Most of its attacks require medium to close range to be effective, but it can really devastate the enemy. The Interceptor has more acid-based attacks than its counterparts, meaning that it will be great for taking down those bosses if it builds to, or it can build to be even more maneuverable with abilities like Spark Dash, which gets you in close. Its first slot focuses around assaulting the target: Seeker Glaive, Acid Bomb, Cryo Glaive, Cluster Mine, and Spark Dash. The second slot is all about striking the target: Star Strike, Plasma Star, Nova Strike, Tempest Strike, and Corrosive Spray. The support slot is the third. Target Beacon marks a target for increased damage by your whole team, and Rally Cry purges all negative status effects on the Interceptor and its allies, useful as you can't fly while burning. The Interceptor's melee does kinetic damage and also detonates. The unique thing though is that it attacks much faster than the other Javelin's melee attacks, and it can be chained indefinitely. You'll be a jumping, spinning whirlwind of death. It won't be uncommon to use your melee more than your guns. More than its abilities, its combo effect shouts melee class. When the Interceptor gets a combo on a prime target, it gains an aura of the damage type used to prime. So if the target is burning, the Interceptor gains a fire aura. If you're up close, this can be devastating. The Interceptor can use all weapon types except heavy, so you can pull out a sniper rifle or a shotgun and have extreme close range or long range options. The Interceptor's ultimate is straightforward but does the most damage out of all of them if used correctly for the full duration. The Interceptor starts by charging its melee weapons. It fully restores its health and becomes invincible, and for a short duration does major melee damage. You'll be cutting through enemies like butter. The great thing about this ultimate, like the others, is that when the duration is over, you are completely healthy. So the Interceptor players can be a little risky when it's ready, getting into dangerous situations as they can press the oh shit button and become invincible right when they're about to die, turning the tables on the enemies. So why would you play the Interceptor? You'd play the Interceptor if you enjoy being the rogue in the party, the one that uses agility to get around, backstab, do major damage and get out. You'll play the Interceptor if you want to help the team by killing your targets. You play the Interceptor if you like melee builds, like being a ninja, or want to play a class very different to the others. So hopefully that gave you more of an idea of what you want to play when you get your hands on Anthem. The only other step is to actually try them out for yourself. Now, there's been a bit of confusion around the alliance system within the game, and Chris from BioWare has taken to Reddit to clear it up. The assumption was that it would function like a guild, letting you and others get rewards for being part of a big group of people. It seems there's no actual official group you'll have to sign up to. It's just a system that gives you rewards for how much you played with the top 5 people each week. You're rewarded with coin, which can be used to make purchases in game. I'm not sure how I feel about this, as making guilds would have been a lot of fun. However, it's early days still and we can't be sure what BioWare has planned. So thanks for watching guys. I'll continue to make Anthem content all through its release, so be sure to subscribe, click that little bell and that like button. It really does help a lot. If you want to go that extra mile though, I have a brand new Patreon page and my top supporters will be listed at the end of my videos. I'm also live streaming Anthem whenever I can, so be sure to follow my Twitch account. Streaming times are there, or look on my Discord or Twitter. Much love, and I'll be back very soon with more.